Hi, welcome. And welcome back for another talk. We have a word for when you outgrow a friendship. We have a word for when a relationship ends. But we don't really have a word for when you quietly outgrow a family member. Because apparently, that's not supposed to happen. So tonight, let's talk about why. You might have heard this sentence before. Maybe from someone who meant well to you. Maybe even from yourself, in a quieter moment, trying to talk yourself into something. That's still your family, though. But actually, no one says that to hurt you or delivers it as a threat. It comes wrapped in something that looks like wisdom, like tradition, like the obvious truth that everyone before you already figured out. But that's exactly what makes it interesting. Because when you pull it apart, when you actually ask why that's supposed to mean something, the answer isn't as solid as it sounds. It's not logic. It's not science. Not even philosophy. It's inheritance. A belief passed down so many times by so many people that it started to feel like gravity, like something that was always true and always will be. But inherited beliefs are exactly the kind of beliefs worth questioning. And we've done that before on this channel. So let's do it again. There's a phrase that sits underneath all of this. You already know it. Blood is thicker than water. 5 words. Used for centuries to justify prioritizing family over everything else, over your own peace, over relationships you actually chose. But you know what? That's not the original sentence. The full quote, the one that existed before it got shortened and passed around, is this. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The blood of the covenant, meaning a bond made by choice, by commitment, by shared experience, thicker than the water of the womb, meaning the biological accident of being born into the same family. The sentence that has been used for generations to tell you that family comes first originally meant the exact opposite, that the bonds you choose are stronger than the ones you were assigned. Somewhere along the way, the sentence got cut in half, and likely nobody questioned it. Some of you who watched the last episode might remember Ryan. If you haven't, the short version is, Ryan spent a long time trying to maintain a relationship with someone who took a lot more than they gave. And one of the harder parts of that story, the part that didn't make it into the last video, is that the person wasn't a stranger. Ryan grew up in the same space as this person, shared meals, shared holidays, shared the specific kind of familiarity that only comes from years of proximity. And for a long time, Ryan mistook that proximity for connection. Because that's what you're supposed to do, right? That's still your family, though. But here's what Ryan noticed over time. In certain rooms, the ones with people he'd chosen, not been assigned, something felt different. He didn't edit himself, didn't calculate his words before speaking, didn't leave feeling smaller than when he arrived. The difference wasn't dramatic, it was just consistent. And consistency over enough time tells you something. Here's where it gets interesting. Because this isn't just philosophy. There's actual biology underneath it. We are, at a basic level, wired for kin selection. The evolutionary tendency to favor people who share our genes, it kept early humans alive. You protect the people who carry your DNA because, in a very cold mathematical sense, your genes survive through them. But here's the catch. And this is the part evolutionary psychology doesn't always mention, that wiring evolved for small tribal groups where your family was also your closest allies, the chosen people by default. There was no separation between the people you were born with and the people you actually wanted to be around. They were the same group. Modern life broke that assumption completely. Now you can be born into a family in one city, build your real community in another, and spend your entire adult life surrounded by people who share nothing of your biology but everything of your values. The wiring didn't update. But you can. There's a philosopher named Jean-Paul Sartre who said something that sounds simple but isn't. Existence precedes essence. What he meant is, you are not born as anything in particular. You exist first, and then, through certain events in your life, you define what you are. Applied to family, birth hands you a surname and a shared history, but it leaves the dynamic entirely blank. It does not automatically give you a relationship. A relationship, real connection, the kind that actually means something, has to be built. The same way Ryan learned that friendships aren't found, they're constructed, one conversation at a time. The same is true for family. The difference between a family member and a stranger you happen to share DNA with is exactly that construction. Some families build it, some never do. And the ones that never do, they still say, "That's still your family though," as if the words alone can substitute for the work. So here's where we land. You don't get to choose your family. That part is fixed. But everything that comes after that, whether proximity becomes connection, whether obligation becomes love, whether we share the same house becomes, "I actually want you in my life," none of that is automatic. And the people who tell you, "That's still your family," they're not wrong exactly. The biology is real. The shared history is real. But history isn't the same as relationship, and biology isn't the same as belonging. The friends who feel like family, there's a reason for that. They went through the construction process. They showed up consistently, chose you repeatedly, stayed when leaving would have been easier. That's not water. That's the covenant. And it turns out, that was always supposed to be thicker. Nobody is telling you to burn anything down or saying family doesn't matter. It's just worth asking, when you're completely exhausted, which space actually feels like home, the one written in your DNA or the one you built from scratch? And if the answer makes you feel uncomfortable, sit with that. Uncomfort is usually where the truth lives. Which home are you actually building? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time.